There it is.
There it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and call to order. Start off with our pledge of allegiance. If everyone could please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to roll call. And I actually have a new setup so I can see most now, but I think what's so good if we do a vote of audio roll call. So
would you like me to do that for you, Chair?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, Renee. Sorry.
That's okay. That's why we're here. So we have Commissioner Current.
Present.
Commissioner Ehart.
Present.
Commissioner Montemayor.
Yes.
Commissioner Strauss.
Present.
And we have new Commissioner Gill with us this evening. We'll meet you in a little bit.
She's on mute. She's on mute too.
She waved. All right.
She's saying
Chair Davis.
Yeah.
She goes.
And we have alternate Jackson here. And alternate Thomas is on vacation today, so he won't be joining us. And you can seek alternate Jackson for, you have one vacancy, so you can go ahead and seek.
Let's go ahead and seat Jackson and move on to approval of the agenda. Have we all looked at the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a motion then to approve it?
I move to approve. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I second.
I got a approval and a second. Want to do a roll call for nades and yades?
Sure. Commissioner Current.
Yay.
Commissioner Ehart.
Yay.
Commissioner Montemayor.
Yes.
Commissioner Strauss.
Yay.
And Commissioner Gill.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, then move on to approving the minutes of last month's meeting. Remember, if you were not a part of last month's meeting, you have to abstain from voting. So if I can please get anyone that would dare to make a motion.
I move to approve last month's meetings minutes.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second, Joe.
Okay, we got a second. Let's go ahead and do roll call for approval.
Okay. Commissioner Current.
Yay.
Commissioner Ehart.
Yay.
Commissioner Montemayor.
I wasn't here. I think my
Okay, so-
apology. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll abstain. Commissioner Strauss.
Yay.
And Commissioner Gill, you'll abstain since you weren't with us yet. Commissioner Davis.
Yay.
And Commissioner Jackson.
Yay.
All right. And the
Okay,
ayes have it.
cool. Moving on to public forum. Do we have anyone in public that would like to speak?
Through here. No, not on this item. I think we have one
Okay.
person here for an agendized item.
Okay, then we will move to business items and capital improvement program. Yeah,
All right, so annually, this commission reviews the city's capital improvement program. They get a nice presentation and go over the list of projects that we have coming up in the next couple of years. So we have our CIP manager, Michael Silvera, with us tonight. And I am very happy to turn the floor over to him. And Josh, could you throw the PowerPoint up, please? Thank you. All right, Michael, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Renee, for the introduction. Good evening, Commissioners and Vice Mayor Montano. As Renee mentioned, my name is Michael Silvera, the CIP manager. Tonight I will be presenting the proposed 23-27 capital improvement program for the park and recreational projects. Next slide, please. During this meeting, I'm going to discuss the park and recreational park accomplishments this past fiscal year, projects scheduled to be completed and to start in fiscal year 22-23, project priorities and challenges. Then I will present the proposed 5-year CIP and then followed by the recommendation. Next slide, please. Park and recreational park project accomplishments in fiscal year 21-22. Next slide, please. Engineering and Park Recreation Department great accomplishment this past year was the completion of the Parks and Recreational Master Plan update. The master plan is a visionary document that recommends enhancement to the city's park system and explores recreational opportunities for the next 20 years. Next slide, please. Here's a project list of a few projects that were completed in 21-22 by Public Works. For citywide park rehabilitation project, Public Works completed playground repairs at Carlow Oriente, Cardoza, Dixon Landing, and Hillcrest Parks. Milpitas School District replaced the pathway at Rancho Middle School, which is owned and maintained by the city. The pathway is part of the city's existing trail system that connects Senate, Robert E. Brown, and Murphy Park and nearby schools. For the sports fields turf rehabilitation program, Public Works converted the baseball fields at Dixon Landing Park for the Bobby Sox softball league. Next slide, please. Now I'll talk about the projects scheduled to be completed or to start in fiscal year 22-23. Next slide, please. McCandless Park Phase 1 is scheduled to be completed in the fall. Phase 1 will construct the main core of the park that includes all inclusive playgrounds, community and butterfly gardens, picnic areas with gazebos, dog play area, pathways, amenities, a restroom, and utility sheds. Following the completion of this phase, construction of the sports field will begin and is scheduled to be completed in 2023. The project received a grant from the County of Santa Clara to build the all-inclusive playgrounds and associated amenities. Next slide, please. Alviso Adobe Park is a 20-plus year project that's entering its final phase, which is to install If These Walls Could Talk program in the Adobe house. The project will install an audio-video system and exhibits to show the history of the property and the city of Milpitas from the late 1700s to present time. The project is scheduled to be completed in the fall. The pictures shown on the slide are a few objects and images that will be placed in the Adobe house. Next slide, please. Last August, City Council approved $4.4 million in ARPA funding for improvements to the park's infrastructure based on the master plan. The funding includes an estimated $2.1 million to address health and safety emergency repairs at 20 of the 36 parks, $1.1 million to address short-term improvements at 4 parks in critical condition, which are Sandalwood, Senate, Strithroth, Starlight Parks, and $1.2 million to address short-term improvements for 6 parks in poor condition, which is Murphy, Sunny Hills, Albert Augustine, Robert E. Brown, Foothill, Ben Rogers, Paco Metro West Parks. The project is anticipated to start consultant selection this coming summer. Next slide, please. Pickleball, pilot pickleball project at Gill Park is anticipated to start later this year. At the study session on February 8th, Council directed staff to fund $75,000 for the project. The pilot project will utilize the existing 2 handball courts. The existing courts will be resurfaced, restriped for new pickleball courts, including fencing, windscreens, and gates. Some of the highlights of the pilot is staff will coordinate with pickleball representatives for days and times of the court availability, including including establishment of a voluntary program for net setup and teardown. They will also conduct a quarterly assessment of utilization, demand, and obtain community feedback. Then staff will return back to council after the conclusion of a one-year pilot. Next slide, please. Here's a few projects scheduled to be completed this year by Public Works. They will replace the T-ball and softball fields at the Sports Center complex as part of the Sports Field Turf Rehabilitation Program, and rehabilitate the tennis courts at Hall Park as part of the minor sports court rehabilitation. Next slide, please. Projects and recreational projects, priority and challenges. Next slide, please. Capital Improvement Program, parks and recreational projects are prioritized in accordance with the City Council's 7 budget priorities. The highest priority of improvements is to address ADA and health and safety needs. The second highest priority will address rehabilitation of existing parks. Priorities are based from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan recommendations. Some of the challenges facing park projects are limited funding. Most parks are in need of upgrades and renovations, ongoing updates and required code changes, increasing construction costs, and continued shortages in resources and equipment. Next slide, please. Here are the 7 City Council budget priorities, which the CIP is in conformance with. Next slide, please. New projects and changes to existing projects are reviewed, prioritized, ranked by the Engineering and Finance Department for conformance with City Council priorities, available funding, and resources. A prioritization list is developed and then discussed with the city's manager's office for recommendation to the City Council. The 9 criteria for ranking the funding requests are listed here on this slide. I will pause for a few seconds for your review. Next slide, please. The master plan provides an assessment of each park and found 24 to be in good to fair condition and 12 to be in poor and critical condition. It identifies short-term repairs and long-term conceptual improvement plans for each park site, which will be used by staff as a guide to improve the park when funding becomes available. The short-term repairs are recommended to be implemented over the next 5 years and are estimated at $8 million. Examples of short-term repairs are replacing kind furnishing and amenities in poor condition, repair existing pathways for safety hazards, repair playground equipment, refurnish restrooms as needed. The long-term repairs improvements are recommended to be implemented over the next 20 years and are estimated at $85 million. These improvements would be considered as a full renovation. Example of these long-term improvements are complete design of the entire park, installation of all-inclusive playground and picnic areas, install new ADA accessible pathways and site furnishings, and provide new community requested park infrastructure. Next slide, please. Here's a typical example of short-term repairs assessment versus long-term improvements for a park in the master plan. I'll use Senate Park as an example. On the left, short-term repairs is part of the existing assessment of the park. It identifies the existing amenities and associated conditions. For Senate, the repairs are to replace site furnishings and signage in poor condition, repair playground equipment, refurnish existing restroom. The estimated cost for these repairs are $400,000. Now to the right is an example of a long-term improvements. When funding becomes available, staff will use the conceptual plan as a guide to determine new park infrastructure and potential cost for a project. Recommended improvements for the project is to install all-inclusive playground, ADA pathways, site furnishing, pickleball, court, community garden, and upgrade landscaping and irrigation system. The estimated cost for these improvements is approximately $6 million. Next slide, please. Now we'll discuss the proposed 23-27 capital improvement program related to the park and recreational projects. Next slide, please. Here is the review of the calendar for the CIP process. On February 8th, the proposed 5-year CIP budget was presented at the City Council study session. Tonight, I will present the park and recreational projects to this commission for review and recommendation. On March 23rd, the CIP will be presented to the Planning Commission for conformance with the city's general plan. Then staff will return to City Council on May 17th for consideration and adoption of the 5-year CIP. And then the operating budget is scheduled to be adopted on June 7th. Next slide, please. The document is organized into 6 project categories: community, parks, streets, water, sewer, and storm drain improvements. The proposed 5-year CIP consists of 137 projects for an estimated amount of $202 million. Part of the budget, there are a total of 19 parks and recreational related projects for an estimated amount of $18.8 million, which are located in the community and park sections. However, only $5.3 million in funding is available for 6 projects over the next 5 years. Next slide, please. Here is a list of projects that have available funding. As mentioned in the previous slide, there is approximately $5.3 million available funding for these 6 projects. I'll give you a second to review these 6 projects. Next slide, please. Here's a summary of the proposed estimated cost of projects to be funded in this coming fiscal year 22-23. Funding for projects will be available starting this coming July 1st. The proposed budget consists of 38 projects for an estimated amount of $29.6 million. Part of the budget includes funding for 5 park-related projects for an estimated amount of $1.36 million. Next slide, please. Here are the 5 projects being proposed to be funded for this coming fiscal year. On-Call Park and Landscape Services Project is to fund immediate maintenance and repairs at parks. Public Art Project funding is for the creation of the Public Art Master Plan. Cardozo Park Softball Field Improvement Project will fund the start of planning, community outreach, and preliminary design. Sports Field Turf Rehabilitation Program funding is for the replacement of soccer field at Hall Park and improvement of the softball field drainage system at Cardozo Park. Minor Sports Court Rehabilitation Project funding is to replace the scoreboards at Dixon Landing Park and Sports Center Complex, the tennis court fabric at Robert E. Brown and Pinewood Parks, and to resurface the tennis courts at Peter Gill Park. Next slide, please. Now we'll look at projects with insufficient or no available funding in the CIP. Next slide, please. There's a value of $74 million of insufficient or no funding available for parks in the 4 out years of the CIP, which includes 6 parks related projects for an estimated value of $13.5 million. I would like to point out that there is a funding need of approximately $71.5 million for 17 renovation projects beyond the 5-year budget. Next slide, please. Here are the 6 projects here's a list of the 6 projects. I'll pause here for a few seconds for your review. Next slide, please. Parks and recreational funding. The city general fund and park funds are the primary sources for the parks and recreational improvements. These sources are not sufficient for all parks and recreational needs. Recently approved Measure F is anticipated to generate $6.2 million annually to fund city projects, including parks. An ongoing source of additional funding is required to address both short and long-term park improvement needs. Next slide, please. In conclusion, staff completed 4 projects in fiscal year 21-22. 3 projects are scheduled to be completed, and staff will be starting work on 4 projects in this coming fiscal year. The proposed 5-year CIP includes 1.36 in funding for park recreational projects in fiscal year 22-23. The CIP shows 5.3 million available funding and 13.5 in funding needed for parks and recreational projects over the next 5 years. Next slide, please. Receive the presentation on 2023 and 27 capital improvement program park and recreation section and recommend approval to City Council. This concludes the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where's the money going to come from to pay for the unfunded projects? Is that something that the city council will consider next year? Are they looking for alternative sources? Does it depend on what the park revenues are?
Every year, the city council approves. So the funding year, which is this year, we go through what is available and to fund this fiscal year. So there's a few sources for the parks that we consider. It's either the park improvement funds or the general fund are the 2 primary sources to fund parks. Now, projects in the out year are typically are planned projects so that they get in the book and they kind of cycle forward as they get closer to the funded year. And then at that time in the funded year, we'll consider how to fund those sources if there's funding available. And it depends all, how much funding will be there.
I think also,
Thank you.
Molly, you mentioned alternate sources, and staff does look at their funding like grants. Sometimes there's proposition money that comes forward, federal monies, state monies, local monies. So we do try to keep our finger on the pulse of that. So I do see our engineering director, Steve Erickson, has his hand up as well.
Let me clarify why I'm asking, because it seems like, for example, I'm paying particular attention to the Carlow Park project because that's my neighborhood.
Right.
But there's enough funding to, like, right now, it seems to me, to cover like the planning, but there's no money for the execution. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of how that's going to work. And does it make sense to spend all this money on planning if there really isn't any chance that there's going to be funding for the execution of that plan? Or is it just that money hasn't been allocated yet, but there's expectation that those funding sources will be available when the time comes?
So this is Steve Erickson, Engineering Director, if I may try to answer that question. So as Michael mentioned, funding for parks primarily comes from either the city's general fund or the park fund, which is supported through park fees or park and lieu fees that are collected from developments. So basically, at this point, the general fund and the park fund are not sufficient to support the ongoing maintenance and improvement needs for the park system. And that's unfortunately just a fact. And so as projects come forward, we try to supplement the funding with grants as they become available. But the truth is that, yeah, we're having a shortfall in funding for parks. We're not able to complete a lot of the improvements that we'd like to. The planning is a necessary process to determine, where parks are in need of, or I should say, it determines which parks are the priority where we can spend the little dollars that we have, if that makes sense. So we, even though it might seem like a waste to spend some money on planning, we do have to go through that process to figure out which is the most appropriate way to spend the limited funding that we have.
Any other questions from commissioners on the plan as it's been laid out?
Can we
I
put-
want to thank Steve and clarify. I wasn't saying we're wasting money. Sorry if I came across that way. I was just trying to get some clarification on that.
No problem intended. I understand your question.
Would it be possible to put up the slide again that had the funded stuff for the upcoming year?
Sure. Michael, do you remember which slide number it is?
Give me a second here.
That'll just help Josh get there faster.
Slide 21.
Okay. Is that the right slide?
Yes.
Okay. So really for this commission, if I may, we're looking at park projects, which is the Metro Tango Subdistrict, which is quite a few years out, but still there is funding for that. And then on-call parks and landscape services, the Cardozo Park softball fields improvement, which is the first phase, which is an important one, which is planning. The sports fields turf rehab program, and then this minor sport court rehabilitation program. Is that right?
That is correct, Renee. Thank you for that.
Okay. So we're looking for a recommendation from this body, like you do typically, to the city council to move forward with those projects at the onset of the next billing cycle. Sorry, I feel like I'm paying my bills. The next funding cycle for the CIP. And then that just goes with the entire and larger discussion that city council will still have on the capital improvement program later on this month.
Yeah, this is Voltaire. I move for the to receive the presentation and on the proposed 2023-2027 capital improvement program park and recreation section and recommend approval to the city council.
Okay, we got a motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
I will second.
Okay, so we got our second. Are we ready to do a roll call and vote?
I am.
I would do
Before you go move on, so I wanted to ask Renee, would it be appropriate for me to ask questions or just wait till it comes to before the city council?
Well, this year, I think you could do whatever you want, but probably larger questions at the city council level. But if you have questions that you want to lay out, maybe staff can help answer those at the council meeting later too.
Yeah, no, the reason why I asked is because, not all the commissioners watch the city council meetings, and when this item comes up, so they won't have that opportunity to listen to the questions and maybe perhaps they might be answered.
Okay.
So that's why I was just wondering, or if it's, see, I don't want to step over on anybody's toes. So maybe I should just wait.
Maybe wait, but if you want to send some questions that popped up from tonight, you can feel free to send that over to me and then I'll.
Yeah, okay. I was just wanted the staff to have an opportunity, the commissioners to have an opportunity on some of the details.
Are the questions about the parks projects themselves? We have Michael and Steve here, or are they?
Yeah, one of them, well, Steve, on the long-term projects, there was one that it should have been, I think it's the pickleball one. I think that should also include a sound wall, because I think that was one of the main concerns from some of the neighbors, is that when you play pickleball, it it makes a lot of noise, but I'm not sure if that, anyway, just you could throw that in there as part of one of the expenses is a sound wall.
Mhm.
And then also you may had a list of a bunch of parks that are going to be, I think 6 parks. And most of that money is coming from ARPA. And those of you that are not familiar with ARPA, it's American Relief Program.
Mhm.
So the city council decided to really, a lot of our parks really needed a lot of upgrading. So a lot of that money came from the ARPA, which is the money from the federal government. So they gave cities some funding due to COVID. And I think ours was about 17 million, but it's supposed to be spread out in 4 years from my understanding. So a lot of that, I think 2 million went to, I'm not sure, I can't remember the amount, but we did put some money in for the parks. And the reason being, a lot of our parks are really important for our city, because if you go to other cities, they don't have as many parks as we do, but that's like one of the highlights about why people move to Milpitas is because of the parks. They're spacious and it's open space, and it's part of our well-being. One of our priorities to make sure that the community has a well-balanced, wellness. So that's one of the reasons why we're really focusing on parks as part of our ARPA funds. But yeah, going back to the 6 parks, I was wondering, is the Pines Park on that list?
Yes.
And it is, okay. So, and I've noticed that the Pines Parks get funding every year, and I'm wondering, is there a way you can give a list to the commissioners of which parks have been funded through the year, so that way they can see, okay, which parks have been prioritized, so that way, it's all fairness, because every neighborhood counts, and I think that these neighborhood parks are really important. I think that the commissioners should have a list of within the last 5 years of which parks have been funded and how much. And that way they can see if there's a pattern there. And I just think it's important. And also, I think they should also get a copy of the park master plan. So that way they can references and they can see, okay, yeah, we're on target, and they can review it and reference it. So that's my recommendation, is to give each and every commissioner a copy of the park master plan if they don't already have it. And I'll just stop there. I'll just wait till the next city council meeting.
So just a couple things. I don't think, I think one of the commissioners made a noise after you asked if Pinewood was on the list. So Michael, I don't think Pinewood, unless I'm misremembering, is on the immediate short-term list, or is it?
I think it is.
Michael?
Sorry, was muted
That's-
there. It's Pinewood is not on the list. Actually, the
Right.
Pinewood is a fair condition park. However, I believe it might have an immediate safety hazard that we need to repair. But as far as it being in the poor condition or critical condition category, it is not. I think there was a renovation that occurred probably 2015, more or less.
Yeah, huge renovations.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's
Okay.
one of those projects that kind of really bumped it up to be in the good to fair category.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't too long ago. I think Vice Mayor, you cut the ribbon, cut the ribbon on that park when we reopened it.
Yeah.
So for pickleball, the pilot program is coming to City Council later in March. And there will most likely be some information in that agenda report as far as the decibel levels of the program and
Okay.
how we propose to deal with that in the pilot. So thank you for bringing up the sound wall. And yes, the commissioners will get a copy of the Parks and Rec master plan and the link if they want to be environmentally friendly when it's fully loaded up on the city's website. So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I think this is I think what I saw on the figures, the CIP people are very cautious enough. We don't want to be like saying what we cannot do, even though there may be some solid sources like Measure F, if I'm right, and other bonds and still we're cautious. In other words, we don't want to be jumping too soon. That's what I can see.
Okay.
Um,
So we have a motion and a second on the table though. So if there's no further discussion, we do need to take a vote.
let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Okay. So Commissioner Current,
Aye.
Commissioner Ehart,
Aye.
Commissioner Montemayor,
Yes, following my my
Commissioner
recommendation.
Strauss,
Yes, yay.
Commissioner Gill,
You're muted.
She doesn't know. There she goes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Davis
Yes.
and Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, great job, Commission. Thank you. Michael and Steve, I think you have your approval that you needed. Was there anything else you needed from the Commission for CIP tonight?
That'd be all for me.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Always hang out.
Thank
Other than
you. And
that-
thank you for all your good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank
You guys have a wonderful night.
You too.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Our next item is the Historical Society tour, and it looks like Commissioner Ehart is going to present a little more info. Am I correct?
Yes. So we've done bus tours for maybe about 3 or 4 years before the pandemic. We discussed this this year just recently at our board meeting, and we're actually still reluctant to actually resume bus tours, but we're not reluctant. We're actually eager to actually do something else in tour, and it's something that it actually was an idea that I was forming during the pandemic, and that is to replace the bus tour, at least for the time being, momentarily, if you will, temporarily, with actually 3 tours this year. One of the things that happens with the bus tour is we actually do about a 4-hour tour, and it goes in various sites in the city by bus. And in some cases, there are always places that we would like to repeat because people that have never been on the tour, it would be a shame to miss some of the really important sites. So the really important sites you tend to want to do again and again. That tends to be a problem when somebody has been, well, for example, Renee, she's been on one of the big tours. So here's the idea, that is replace that tour this year, at least, but deal with this 1 year at a time, with 3 tours or 3 historical events, if you will. Maybe just tentatively, for example, June, August, and October. And to give you an idea of what my thinking about October is, if the Alvisa Adobe, which is one of the important sites, opens in October, the Historical Society could have a special event there for people and generally announce it to the city and let as many people that would like to come. The other advantage of not doing a bus is you no longer have a headcount limitation. Like the last time that we did the bus tour, there were seats for 55 and we had about 110 registrations.
Mm-hmm.
So if we actually just tell people, okay, for October, for example, on a certain day and a certain time, we'll all meet at the Alvisa Adobe, as many people that want to come can come, and then people that don't want to come, that's fine, because maybe they've seen it before, although they wouldn't have necessarily seen the inside, which is one of the big events for this year. 2 other sites that I think are historically significant, and which would be, one is the intersection of Carlow and Main Street. That's probably the most historically significant. You wouldn't necessarily say it, but in terms of the city, that was the one place in the city of Milpitas that was hugely important for a lot of reasons. And then another place, interestingly enough, is where the library is, the grammar school, and so on, because there are a number of things around that location which are historically significant. And secondly, the garage has the advantage of having some very large photographs installed in the wall, and that's actually an interesting resource to to show people pictures, which ordinarily you really can't do in tours and things like that. So anyway, our preliminary thinking is that key intersection at Saraway, I think I misspoke, Saraway and Main Street, and then also down by the library, because there's a lot right there. And thirdly, the El Vista Adobe. And that way people, in other words, we probably will get different audiences at each of those. And for somebody who's new, they can come to all three, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's our current thinking. And we feel that that's, and we're actually curious to see if that's actually a more successful approach. Because in some respects, I think people would actually like that approach. The bus tour has been very popular, I will say that. And we're actually looking to create something that's even more popular. So anyway, reactions, because I'm really open to ideas and we can talk about this. I get into planning right away because I usually not only choose the sites, but write the supplementary material that we always hand out to people and so on. So I go through this preparation process, but I'm just kind of curious about that idea of not doing the bus tour and replacing it with actually 3 tours and 3 different events.
Is that a question, Joseph?
Yes.
Through the chair. Have you ever thought about doing a tour at the Wella Ranch? When I was Cots there back in my teenage years, back in the 60s, I was wondering, that's if it's still there, and if it's still there, if we could do a tour there, that would be awesome.
Yeah, the last information that I have, matter of fact, I was talking with one of the Wellers today, but the last information that I have is the following. First of all, the ranch was put up for sale and was actually put up for sale some years ago. The ranch is actually administered by Wells Fargo as a trust. But it was put up for sale. The last information I have, which is now, I would say, I doubt that it's current, is that there was basically an intent to buy. And I just don't know that the purchase has actually been completed. And to compare, with you, Carmen, I went on a tour within the last 5 years with a very small group of people. And generally speaking, they won't even let a big group in. And at this point, it may no longer even be in possession of it may have already been sold, but I can tell you what it was like when I was in, and I actually have photographs that I took and things like that. But yeah, it was something that the city of Milpitas could have bought for about $10 million. And
wow, that's a shame. You could have bought it.
And basically the city has passed more than once at the purchase of that property.
That's too
And
bad.
it would have been Milpitas's equivalent of the Patterson House, say up in the Newark Fremont area and things like that. That's and the main house is really impressive, but all of the outbuildings, there were a lot of things that the city could have done if they had bought that property. We could do summer camps there for kids. There's so many ways to have turned that into a really interesting facility, and the city had no interest whatsoever in getting that property.
Wow. It's too bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think
anyway,
a historic tour series is very, very current and allows people to kind of pick and choose or go to all, which I think is really would be really popular. I was on one of the last bus tours and you had to fight for your seat. So I think it's great. It's a great idea. I did not fight, but it was standing room in many of those spots. So I think that's great. I think that El Vista Adobe should definitely be on the tour when it's ready to be opened. Absolutely. I'm very, very excited about that building and all the work that's gone into the program inside. So I think those are great. I think for the library, if we can get in, if we can find that old holding cell, that would be really cool. I don't know if they got rid of it, or I know where it is in my mind. I just have to see if it's still back there. That would be kind of a neat spot to show people. And then maybe while you guys are out, just taking ideas from the community about where they'd want to go on the next tour series, because there could be some places that they've heard about that those of us that have been here a really long time maybe take for granted as not being as exciting. So, but I think the series is a good idea.
One,
And the other idea about 3 instead of 1 is that somebody may really want to go on it, but we happen to have scheduled it for the one Saturday that they can't go.
Right.
Whereas with 3 different events, they can basically hopefully make one of them and something like that. Yeah. So it provides, it's a test case in this particular case of just scheduling more than one event in the year and allowing people to choose. And frankly, I wouldn't even object to scheduling more than 3, but I think 3 is certainly an interesting place to start.
I know
And
one of the,
I'm sorry, just the perspective of this commission with bicycle transportation, maybe there's some sort of synergy between the Milpitas Historical Society's tour locations and then information that goes out to the public about how they can ride, bike, or take transit to the locations.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say one spot that I would be very interested in being able to get into and seeing more of, to be complete on it, is the Ford plant, the Great Mall. I know when I went to work there, I got to go behind scenes, and there's actually some of the old bolt patterns in the floor from where the machinery was. And being able to get in and see some of that behind the scenes stuff that is not known to still be there, but is, that nobody knows what it is, would be a tour idea.
Yeah, there's over 200 square feet of the mall that are basically not publicly accessible.
Yep.
Yeah, and everybody thinks that all the square footage is actually stores and walking area, but that's not true.
No, there's a big open area in the middle of all the swords that
Exactly. Yeah.
I know when I was there, I went to work for Nike, and you could walk back there and actually see the bolt pattern in the floor of where the machines were held down. And there's even an elevator there that takes you up and kind of into part of the tower that not many people know what that tower was. It was actually meant to hold so many bodies to be built on demand. So the Ford plant is just one area that I would love to see a little more info on someday.
Yeah, and I don't know that they would allow us to do that.
Joseph, have they at least let you go and take photos of that, of the areas where they did the assembly and all that? Just to archive the photos?
I've been in that space with the former director of operations. And actually I was on a morning walk there and he was on a morning walk there, and we actually walked through this. We basically did a shortcut. We cut through, but once you go into that space, of course, there are issues of keys and things like that. There's even another idea, which may even make more sense, and that is if there were, and it's a completely different way to do a tour, and that is, there's no reason why we couldn't, for example, as part of that program, do something that's actually an audio-visual presentation in the main auditorium of the library.
Yeah.
And in a way, you'd actually see stuff that you couldn't physically see because that's just been removed.
That's a great idea.
When major change has been made, it's gone, right? And so you're trying to get people to imagine what it was like. Whereas that's another way of, for example, having special things. Maybe we kind of conceive of a program where we do an occasional special Saturday, a weekend for people at work, some kind of a weekend event where we do a special thing. And a lot of people won't necessarily, it's the kind of thing that I could present in the society's general monthly meeting, but I think it would actually make more sense to do some of these site-specific things as an adjunct of a tour and as a different way of doing a tour. And one of the more challenging parts for me as the docent is when I'm at a particular location. I mean, I have lots of images in my head because I've seen photographs of the way things were 100 years ago and things like that. But when you're physically at a corner and I'm describing what it was like 100 years ago, it's an imaginative experience as opposed to actually seeing what it was like 100 years ago and now. So there may be, one of the things that we could ponder is, maybe a kind of an ongoing program where we maybe, I don't know, 4 times, 6 times a year or something, actually do something like a weekend 1-hour presentation of some particular site. Like, Ricky is talking about the Ford plan is for some, there's stuff that could be done in that particular format in a way that actually probably works much better than actually going into the mall building at this point.
Yeah. Renee, looking at our agenda, do we have a hard stop time we need to do for any reason?
No.
Okay. Just wanted
Anyway.
to make sure.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say unless there are other questions. But I'm actually looking for new ideas of how to reimagine the bus tour into something that goes beyond what we can do in a bus tour.
Mm-hmm. Some people do story walks. It's pretty popular. Do it in the park systems, and usually it's like, you're walking along to Cat in the Hat or something like that. But down Main Street, there are so many spots that exist and don't exist anymore. But if you set up the signs and QR codes, people can actually walk along with the tour and you as the docent. And if they've got their devices, which everyone does, they can actually see on their phones, if you have the tour set up that way, where they are standing and what it looked like however many years ago, because you guys have access to all those pictures. So that's another way to kind of experience or do a history walk.
Yeah, and actually you just hit on an idea that we've had, which is to actually, as part of the Main Street project, to actually build a history walk there in exactly the way they described, with signage and QR codes, and it links into information on the website so they can actually get content, along with the docent at the time and actually talking about it.
Well, there you go.
I have some really interesting ideas about what to do on Main Street that actually basically brings Main Street back into kind of where people can begin to get a sense of what was there.
Yeah. If you got real creative, you could have people at the Carlow store location dressed, in that way, and talk about the story, kind of like who's our cowboy that was at Elviso Adobe, Craig, and they're dressed in period piece and what did that look like, and the fun times in front of the Cozy Kitchen parcel. And you could even show Milpitas Monster at the end of the movie, because basically all of the historic sites in that movie, just see what Calaveras looked like back then, and what Air High looked like, and some of those streets. So I think technology is a good way to reach today's person too. And if they're walking along or biking along and can see it, 50, 70, 100 years ago on their, as they're standing there, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, on their smartphone. Yeah, that's exactly the thing, because buildings are gone, but we can put buildings back in place because we put up a sign with a QR code and say at this location, and they pull the picture up off the web onto their phone and they can look at it. Yeah, that's that especially is going to work with particularly people that are maybe younger and a little more tech savvy with their equipment and so on. Yeah. No, we're right on the same wavelength. I mean, I've really had visions about what can be done with Main Street from a historical perspective, and basically people can walk their own tours when they want, because we've basically built the infrastructure where they can walk the tour and get the same kind of tour in a way, but they can do it whenever they want to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I totally agree. There's a park project.
Well, that is
We got Main Street becomes a park,
yeah.
a historic park.
Right. Okay.
Is there anything that you would like the commission to help you guys with? Is the upcoming Historical Society meeting that we maybe could attend that could help? What can we do to help the Historical Society?
Oh, well, the advertising is certainly, just because the broader the community, knows what's happening, we can do things like put things in newspapers, things like that. But again, for a pretty large part of the community that is becoming increasingly tech savvy, I mean, just putting things into Facebook and things like that would be fine. I know we'll post stuff like that, but if the city does too, it just comes up more often, if you will. In other words, they'll see it from different sources. So obviously we'll coordinate with you about the content and so on, so that you understand what we're doing where and when. And like I said, I just came up with the possible idea of June and August and October, but we're basically forming the plans now. And so if you have ideas specifically about that, we're more than happy to listen and try and respond, positively to that.
Cool. Any other comments before we move on to our next business item?
I just want to say, I do like that history walk. I think that would be really nice on Main Street, and then have, some food trucks there and have people just walking along Main Street and having some photos there and the history. I think that would be cool. Anyway, I like that. Good idea, Renee.
I almost wonder if we could
I think they had it first.
almost wonder if we could tie that in with one of the items in our agenda and do like a bike walk event on Main Street and tie it in with the historic walk.
Oh, you mean your work plan? Part of your work plan?
Yeah.
That would be cool. If not this year, next year, yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about when you get to that presentation part, Ricky, because I think you and Becky met on it. You guys can talk about that as well. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll move on to we have a donation info to talk about, Renee.
Yep. Let me promote one person real fast. All right. So all right, bear with me. Way too many windows open. Okay. So in 2013, the Parks and Recreation Commission actually developed a nation policy to parks and recreation programs, and it covers financial donations, equipment, furnishings, cash donations or financial donations, but it also includes memorial donations. And you've probably, all of you in city parks, and you've probably seen some of the memorial plaques. There's several at Carlow Park. There are a couple of memorial benches at Sunny Hills Park, and we have some memorial dugouts and plaques at the Milpitas Sports Center for one of our youth sport players that passed away a couple of years ago. So those all fell under, well, most of them, some of them were placed in the early 90s, but most have come under this donation policy. And so we did receive a memorial donation application, which was part of your packet, which was emailed to you today. And that recent one is for Dale Flanois. Many of you know Dale Flanois. He passed away in July. He was an employee of the city of Milpitas for over 40 years. And so we have Rosanna Cacao, who you also know, who was your staff liaison. She retired a couple of months ago as well, who put in the application on behalf of Dale's family and friends. So Rosanna, if you're online. If you wanted to read the write-up for everyone, you can go ahead and do that now.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. Good evening, commissioners, vice mayor, and staff. Dale Flanois, as Renee mentioned, retired recently as a recreation supervisor, passed away unexpectedly last year. After working over 4 decades with the city, Dale retired in March of 2021 and passed away 4 months later. He was extremely proud of his time and work with the city as he grew up in Milpitas in the Sunny Hills neighborhood and knew the town and people well. Dale began his work as a public servant as a young man as a teacher's assistant at Wella Elementary. He was a mainstay in the city's summer camps and watched after and mentored thousands of Milpitas children. He started many of the fun and exciting programs and events in Milpitas, like Milk and Cookies with Santa and the Stay and Play After School program, which is now After the Bell. He planned many facility and park ribbon cuttings, drove the van for the Milpitas Senior Center, served as staff liaison for the Veterans Commission, and the list goes on and on. He approached every program or task he was assigned with humor, excitement, and attention to detail that the Recreation and Community Services Department is known for. He is survived by his loving husband, Elias, fur babies, his sister, niece, and nephews. He is and will always be greatly missed.
All right. So the way this works is the recommendation comes from Parks and Recreation Commission, and that recommendation goes to City Council for the placement of a memorial bench. The family is looking to place the bench at the community center where they worked for many years. The cost is borne by the friends and family, so they raise the money for the bench and pay for the bench and the plaque. So what we're asking for tonight is the commission's feedback and recommendation to City Council on the approval of a memorial bench for Dale Flanois. If there's any questions or comments or motions, Chair, I'll turn it over to you.
I'll start it off. The particular spot at the center that he would write the bench, or that the family would write the bench, or is it how did that get decided?
So when we do have requests from families and friends to place benches, whether it's in a park or the community center would be a first, but we would take their requests for specific locations, and then we work with the Public Works Department to see if that placement will work. So things like you have to bolt the bench down. So where could we put a pad? Is there irrigation? Is there electrical? What's underground? Where would it make sense to put it? You know, you don't want to put it just somewhere really awkward. Yes. So there's some collaboration with the city departments and the family as to where the bench will end up.
Okay. Well, I think, unless there's any other questions, I'll make a motion to recommend the item for City Council. But before I do that, anyone else want to ask anything or say anything?
Oh, let's do it. It was wonderful. It was so wonderful.
Yeah, he was a great guy. Just if you're asking for comments. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a great guy. And then he went to schools here. He went to Samuel Air. He was a graduate from Samuel Air High School. So he's very integral part of Milpitas. And that's great that their family's doing that.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion of approving it, or approving it to move on to City Council. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
I think we had a lot of seconds there.
Yeah, very deserving. Yeah, to memorialize. Yeah.
So let's do a roll call.
Unanimous second.
Yeah, the whole commission. All right, let's go down. Let's go down the roll. Commissioner Current.
Aye.
Commissioner
Sorry, took me-
Ehart,
Aye.
Commissioner Montemayor,
Yes, very deserving.
Commissioner Strauss,
Aye.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes, he seems like he agreed with everybody. So that's right.
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
and Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
All right, wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Rosanna, for bringing that forward. Thank
It
you.
is so nice seeing you on
Thank you.
the Serena again, Rosanna.
Yes.
You look so
thank you very
relaxed.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me, I am. Thank you. Have a good
Great to
evening,
see you.
everyone.
Thank you, Rosanna.
Bye-bye.
Aye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, next item is the bike and pedestrian trail and ad hoc committee recommendations. Should I,
Mhm.
I'll start with the little presentation I did. So we met this past week. There were 3 of us in meeting, me, Becky, and Comets.
Alan. Mhm.
Alan, thank you.
Mhm.
I totally am doing mental. And we talked about more of a bike event. So we talked about a commission hosted bike event. Can go to the next slide. We kind of were looking at 2 different dates. Our primary date that we wanted to host it on would be August 23rd. We kind of went late in August because we know the Veteran Commission hosts a card show normally at the beginning of August. So we didn't want to do it too early and not knowing when the event was going to be. And we did a backup date. So we were kind of a second date or a backup date of September 3rd in case weather or conditions do not allow on the 23rd, we would move it to September 3rd. What our goal, but we definitely need input from the department on any other events around that time and if those 2 weekends would work. Next slide.
Wait, Chair, is the 23rd really on a Tuesday?
When we looked at it, it was a Saturday.
Okay.
Did I put the wrong date up? Let me open my calendar.
The 23rd is a Tuesday.
Okay, we had talked about the 20th. Becky, can you help remind me?
Yes. Hold on, let me look at my calendar here.
So it was either the 20th or the 27th then. So I do apologize for that.
That's great. That's
typo.
Okay.
Yeah, I look at. Oh. Well, no help there. So wait a minute, I don't have the date. Then on 8/27.
Okay, it was the 20th that we had originally meant to put. I'm looking at my notes now.
Looking at mine too, but okay.
So that would me making a typo on the presentation. I am very sorry about
Oh,
that.
you did a great job.
So we can go back, but it's the August 20th or September 3rd. So not the 23rd. I meant to hit a 0, not a 3.
Okay, so it's August. What was the date again? August what?
August 20th
20th. Okay.
was our original date that we would like, and a
As I had
backup-
plans, I'm sorry. As I see plans on August 27th, backup September 3rd.
Oh, you
That's
had
what I have written
27th.
down here. Yeah. So whatever you guys want, you know.
So yes, I made a big mistake here.
Okay,
I'm
so
so
late
sorry.
August or early
Yes.
September. Okay,
Yes.
next slide.
Which is the Labor Day weekend.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
We
you don't
will-
want that.
1 week.
Yeah.
1 week apart.
Okay.
so maybe the 21st.
How about we finish the
Yeah.
slide deck and then we can discuss all the event points.
Oh, okay.
after.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
So-
keep going, Chair.
At the ride that we were looking at we have 2 options. Both of them would meet at the McCarthy Ranch trailhead of the Coyote Creek Trail. We were looking at a commissioner arrive about 9 o'clock and event start at 9:30 time. Next slide. So we picked two different routes, either the north route or the south route. The photos are not the best. Oh, go ahead and, oh, there we are. So if you look at this, you see where Ranch 99 shows up on the map. That is about where the McCarthy trailhead is. And then we would go up, ride north to Ditson Landing, McCarthy Boulevard, and get to a Uri and ride back to McCarthy Ranch on this route. There's no good picnic areas going there, so we decided it would just be a ride up and a ride back as a big group. And then the secondary route, our primary route going south, next side, would be a little bit longer, would be going south from the McCarthy Ranch, and then taking the path, what is also the more scenic path, down through the Coyote Tree to where Napadat Hall is. Napadat Hall is a private venue that is at the corner right there, and we were thinking we could talk to the owners of the facility and see if we could do a bag run meeting at their picnic area and then turn around and do the ride back. So these were our two areas that we thought of for this event. We threw around a couple different trails, but this was the one that kind of seemed the easiest and had a good meeting point at the beginning of McCarthy Ranch, where people could actually park and we could gather and have a trail that would not be interrupted by a lot of road crossings. We wanted to make it as family friendly as possible. So next slide. Oh, that's the end. Okay.
That's it.
Betty, anything I'm missing?
Pardon?
Anything that I'm missing, Betty? On our little...
No, you did, you covered it. I think the main thing was about the picnic at Napadak, if that was, you know, the questions were, did we need a permit for that and things like that? Well, I guess we have to talk to Napadak Hall first, if we can even, if this council even decides that that's what we want to do.
You guys know that Napadak is in San Jose, right?
It's right on the border of Milpitas, San Jose.
Yes, we did.
And that was the best part we could find that was on the trail without getting too far out of Milpitas. And we know a lot of the high school had always done stuff there. So it's kind of a honorary Milpitas spot to... When I was in high school, we did the City Hawton dance there. My ROTC dance was there.
I'm giving you a hard time. No, I just wanted to point out that was not a Milpitas location.
Yes.
That did come up in discussion, yes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what the ad hoc committee came up with for the commission hosted event. We talked a little bit about the bigger event that we all were talking about, but didn't get too far into that. That was not our primary area of discussion for this event.
So
Yes,
would that be like a culmination? Like that's where everybody's gonna end up and then you'll have a picnic there or something?
the Napadat Hall.
Yeah, is that what you're talking?
So what we figured is it would be a bike ride there, kind of, it's a midpoint. So we could stop, have runs, kind of talk, get to know everyone, and then jump back on our bike, jump back on the trail, and come back to McCarthy Ranch.
Do you think it's too long? Because, you know, there's a lot of, the last one I was at was right there on McCarthy Ranch Boulevard, but it wasn't that long because there's a lot of little kids with the families. True. And so I didn't think it was, I personally, I don't think it should be that long.
Okay.
And then we should keep it at a venue in Milpitas if you're going to do like a picnic or something. And last time we didn't have a picnic. It was just a bike ride. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking you should try to make it as simple as possible because then you get more liabilities, you know?
Okay.
Well,
more chance
that's
of
where
life.
we would have we could do the north route then, what it would keep it all in Milpitas. And it's a little shorter. And it would just be go up to McCarthy Boulevard, turn around and come back down to McCarthy Ranch Trailhead.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question
that's
about the
problem.
route. I'm trying to raise my hand, but I guess you can't see it.
You are totally fine. Yes.
So the North Route is the one I'm talking about. Are you going to get on the bike path there, or are you going to be on the boulevard, the paved on the traffic,
whole-
the street with cars?
The whole thing would be on the
On the trail,
the
bike
trail. Thank
trail.
you. The bike trail that meets the across the street, kind of from McCarthy Ranch, where the old Citro campus would to be right there. There's a parking
I've
lot.
been on that bike trail many times. It's part of my commute to work, so
Okay.
I'm very familiar with that bike trail. One question I have about the going down and coming back is I don't think that bike path is wide enough to accommodate a big group of people traveling one way and then coming back the other way at the same time. It's not that wide a bike path.
No, it's not a huge bike trail. When we were talking, we were planning, it wasn't going to be everyone riding in one big group. We figured it going to slowly drift apart. And then a UE come back. It should be, and we're planning, I haven't done this type of event before. We were thinking maximum would probably be about 15 to 20 people. And from what I remember that trail, it should accommodate that without a problem. We wouldn't be riding side by
I
side.
don't know. I don't know. It's
I
we
think,
had
I think the vice mayor and I have seen this one before, and so it's families and the demographic could totally change any time, any year. But there were lots of small kids. Some people were troopers. They met at Dixon Landing and McCarthy Boulevard, or that long street. They hopped on the trails. Some people went as far as their 5-year-old would pedal, which wasn't that far.
Right.
Some people went all the way into San Jose, past Naperdack, just went for it, different levels and degrees of bike experience. So it wasn't like, critical mass where like you got 100 people biking together and then trying to all turn around at the same time. But yeah, I mean, it's not a super wide path, but Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
Just a quick question. So we will have logistics, will have some public safety there to make sure that, I don't know, it's police protection, or will we have someone there to make sure that, or even staff to make sure that everything is safe?
Good point.
And then will the bike lanes be painted green by that time?
Well, that won't. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's,
okay.
so if we're gonna plan a trail ride, we would let Public Works know, and then I think that's Water District property as well. So we would let them know that it's happening. When we've had runs on the trails before, we've let the other departments know, just so they're in the know, and if they clear any debris or anything like that, just so it's as safe as possible. And then sometimes, departments will send, representatives just to kind of bike along with people and things like that. So that's always kind of neat. But I remember from the last one, which is a few years ago now, the commissioners met, handed out just a couple of tchotchkes to people when they showed up, maybe a couple of bike maps, I think at that time, encouraged everyone, and off they rode. And that was pretty much it. It was like a 9 or 9:30 start.
So
But
what
yeah.
we had also planned to kind of some of the safety stuff on our side, we would ask a handful of us commissioners to go out the weekend before or even the night before and go ride the trail, make sure it's all safe, and take note of any road hazards or anything that would need to be called out beforehand. and made sure we do it as safely as possible. I would love if we could get an officer that would come out and ride one of the bike patrol officers. But once again, was kind of what I thought of the event is it's a good way for us to also advertise the commission and get new
Yes.
blood in it all the time, because I know a lot of us have been here for a while, and it's always good to hand over the torch and make sure we have new blood coming in so that Renee doesn't get tired of looking at us all. I'm talking for me. She don't get tired of looking at me.
No
There
way.
will be a lot of
Not possible.
I remember the bicycle commission used to have a big banner. Do you guys still have it, or are you going to make a new one?
Yeah, I don't think we have the old BTAC banner anymore, but we have our ways of making new things. So
Because I'm not even familiar with that trail or anything, so I guess I'd have to try it myself. I really don't
safely
know.
with a helmet. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while. My bike's been hanging up there.
Here you have a hand up from Commissioner Gill.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you're saying
Just
maybe
recent, okay.
15 people and meeting up at McCarthy's Ranch, is there many places to eat there, stop off for snacks or whatever? But I'm not familiar with the actual trail, but I know if meeting back at McCarthy's Ranch would be great to a place to eat.
Oh,
There's a certain amount of people. There's loads of places to eat there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
McCarthy Ranch and Ranch 99, they all
Yes.
a ton. Milpitas has fantastic restaurants. So
Yeah.
I think the picnic idea is fantastic, but I agree with the vice mayor. I'd love to keep people in town and
no,
enjoy
it's-
our
we
park
thought about that
system,
too.
or patronize and patronize our city's restaurants if they're gonna, stop off there. So
And it, speaking of, it's something I would love if we go ahead with the dates and stuff. I wouldn't mind going to some of the businesses and saying, hey, we're doing this event. Would you mind throwing a 10% discount out if someone comes and say they did the ride, and trying to find stuff like that to also encourage people to go to some of our restaurants and stuff. So as we approve dates and figuring out that we want to do the North Pathway, then I think the next step would be to either have the same ad hoc committee meet again and figure out, trying to find some little thing to give out as raffle prizes and talk to some local businesses and see if anyone would love to kind of be a sponsor of it and give anyone who goes for the ride afterwards a small discount to come and have lunch at their place maybe. So
you could do swag bags, so you can get, a recyclable bag. You would assume that people have, a backpack or a camel bag on their back for water or hydration. And then you can have little coupons inside the bag.
Yeah.
So that people that ride get the coupon, and then they can decide to either use it
or not
halfway through the ride, or go home, take a shower, and then take their family out for,
Yeah. I think it's
restaurant or something.
complicated too.
So I think the main thing is for our ad hoc committee is if we could kind of as a group agree on one of the dates, and then I think by the sound of it, most of us think the North saying in Milpitas would be better.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think here in my head. And then also if there's other stuff that you would like to recommend, that would be great also.
So for the 2 dates, Josh, are there any special events on or around those 2 dates that we need to make the commission aware of?
Not at this point. It looks pretty open. I think we have, they're back into the school time. So depending on what council drives us for, as far as some of the things that we're looking at doing in September, that might be the only conflict. But at this point, no.
And then
September 3rd, then.
That's Labor Day.
Oh, right.
Holiday.
Yeah,
Kids are back in school, so we
September
stopped
5th
our summer
Mondays.
concerts and all those types of things.
Okay. So we're back to August 27 or somewhere around there. Okay.
So I'm also involved in Milpitas Pals Soccer. And just to let you know, the 27th, and it shouldn't have anything to do with this, but it is opening day for us at Milpitas Sports Center. So
probably not.
FYI. But
Yeah,
there's
you'll have
gonna
a-
be
yeah.
soccer every Saturday until middle of November. So there's always going to be sports and other things that are going on. But I just want to let you know that.
Right, but opening day, every team is there, right?
Yeah.
And they're all parading and, you know,
Yeah,
so it's a bigger day, right?
it is a pretty big deal. Yeah.
So that would, the 27th is opening day?
Yes.
So then probably the 20th would be the better, or the 3rd. Because I definitely would not want to go on the same day as opening day.
The 3rd is Labor Day, Chair.
Oh.
You probably don't want to do that.
That's
That
Labor Day
weekend. Yeah.
The 20th?
The 3rd is Saturday. The 5th is Labor Day itself, but it's the beginning of the 3-day weekend.
3-day weekend, yeah.
So were you talking, I'm sorry, August 20th then? Is that what the other date was?
If we don't have
Yeah.
stuff going on yet.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, right?
Sounds
Alright.
good.
August 20th.
Okay,
Okay.
so we will.
Yes.
So
What about the start time? Is the commission agreeable to the start time of 9:30?
Sure, I
Sounds
guess.
great.
It's going to be hot that time of year, so I think getting started early is a good idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so 9:30. If the commissioners are setting up, you need to be there way before 9 o'clock. So you're looking at, that's, you need more than 30 minutes because people will
Yeah.
start arriving earlier, than
Well,
9:30.
So really fast, it's a show of hands. How many commissioners are willing and able to come out on the 20th to support this event?
Well, I'll come and do,
I'll be
are you
out
doing
there.
signups or something? I can do a sign up thing, so I can be there early.
Okay, it looks like pretty much everyone, that kind of what I wanted to get a feel for, to see if we had a good commissioner showing. Renee, do we need to make a motion here for anything?
Yeah, they need to approve the date and time. I think Vice Mayor has a comment though. real
Yes.
fast.
I just had a quick comment. We have the VTA Bicycle Coalition, and you might want to reach out to them. And also the Silicon Valley.
By Coalition.
Yeah, I think they might want to get involved in this. So
Okay,
I think Renee might want to reach out to them.
yeah,
Thank you.
I have their contacts, Vice Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
So then I guess we need to make a motion. And then Renee, in that motion, should it be that the ad hoc committee continue to meet to come up with planning the event, or how do we need to word that?
So you as an ad hoc cannot make decisions on behalf of the
No.
commission. Yeah,
Sorry,
so.
I don't mean,
Yeah, so I think you can continue the ad hoc committee to work with staff. Once the
Okay.
commission approves the date, route and time. And then we'll work on the, staff will do the marketing and all that stuff and put all those things together. But the ad hoc committee can next talk about any little donations or like grab bag types of things for the event goers.
okay.
So
I guess,
I make a motion that we have this bike event on August 20th, starting at 9:30 a.m. And that was Coyote Creek Trail, right? The north?
yes. So I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a second. Let's go for a vote.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Montemayor.
Yes, but can I have a note like if we have public safety?
No,
Yeah,
no,
but
we're voting, sir.
More,
We're
okay,
voting.
okay, yes.
Yes, Commissioner
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Strauss,
Aye. Yes.
Commissioner Ehart,
Yes.
and Commissioner Curran.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I have a comment to make, and this is for Renee. So Renee, I serve on the VTA
Mhm.
board as an alternate this time, but they do give out grants, and I think they send the information to the transportation department. So I asked them to send you that information as well. So
Okay.
that way you'll know when there's available grants to
Awesome.
help with the bicycle, the bike
Okay.
team.
Great. Thank you. Always good to hear from them. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, that is, let me pull, where'd my mouse? I can't wait till next month when we're back live.
Mhm.
Okay. Next item is our park code detection.
Yep. So annually, this commission goes on a tour, or they pick a site actually to visit, and it can be one of the city parks, city facilities. It's up to the commission where they want to go. So we're open to suggestions or discussion on where you guys would like to visit.
Are we going to do this one how we did it last year, or are we going to do it how we used to do it before pandemic?
I think you could probably try to do it your pre-pandemic style. We just finished the Parks and Rec Master Plan, so they went through and assessed all the parks. So I think that work is done, and you guys don't need to do that. But if there's a section of town where you want to visit a few of the parks, if there's a park that was recently renovated that you want to go visit, an area that you've heard that's of concern that you would like to go see, those are kind of the discussion points for the commission to think about when they select their location/locations. Or you can not to do it, but it is in your work plan, so you probably should.
I would start off by saying I would love to see the Adobe and what have been updated. I've been there on the outside, but I don't know if we could get in and see what's gone on or anything like that. For that, that would be high on my priority, because I really am looking forward to that.
We are finishing the project. It might be completed in June. So if that's something that the commission wants, I would suggest you say, oh, we would love to go, get a preview of the Alviso Adobe tour, and then put that as your number one, and then you have an alternate. So if we can't do Alviso Adobe, then you've got it like a runner up.
Anyone else have any ideas or thing they would like?
No.
You have 34 amazing parks.
I know we
and
do.
5 amazing facilities. I would be shocked
I
if Marriott Commissioner had an idea besides Commissioner Davis.
I would be interested in seeing, a couple of parks that have been that have had recent renovation work done to them.
Okay.
Because I probably have been to those parks before, but not recently. So that would be interesting to see.
So I know that Michael gave us a list of what was worked on, but I'm sorry, I've been up a really long time and I don't remember what that slide was. So what has newly been renovated that we should perhaps consider?
Well, Creighton Park is amazing and beautiful right now. So I would recommend that be visited.
Where's that one? Great.
That one is on
Dempsey.
Acadia Avenue
Yeah.
/ Park Victoria South
Thank
area.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
between
that
there and
one's
Dempsey.
yeah,
Dempsey on the west end, on the west side.
kinda. You can't get there from Dempsey, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you
it's over
can.
there. Can you?
I
I guess
drive
I've
to-
never gone
yeah.
that route.
It's a court.
Well, I'm ashamed. I grew up the street. So Creighton's been done. Dixon Landing fields look really nice right now, and their snack shack. So they just had their opening day last Saturday.
Oh,
for
wow.
softball. That looks really good. Several of the park tennis courts have been resurfaced lately as well. We started work on McCandless Park. That will not, I don't believe that'll be done in early June, but that's the all-inclusive park program. So we could go stand in the parking lot and look at that site. Those were the big ones. And Elviso Adobe. Yeah, Creighton, and that will be done in June as well. I don't know if it'll be done in time, but
So
those are
Renee,
the big ones. Yeah.
is there any way that on McCandless Park that I think who's the one that's doing that work there, that major work for the school district? I think it's
Block Construction.
yeah, so they're very community oriented. And has anybody asked them if they would build a snack shack for future generations when it'll be there for future generations when the sports changes, every so many years people change different sports. And I think that would be really nice to have a little snack shack there for the future. And maybe I think they would build it if somebody asked them.
Yeah. No, we haven't asked them for specifically that. They're doing the school side construction. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Yeah.
Just ask them. It won't hurt to ask. If they say no, well, they might even want to donate for something. Something.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. Trying to think of anything other major projects. The skate park, if you haven't been out there, is pretty impressive. The snack shack at the Little League fields is opened. That was a complete tear down and redo. That's pretty impressive. Rondi's smiling. So, so she's been in there a lot.
Yep.
So those all opened up, some through the pandemic. So I think those are the three major ones: Creighton, the skate park, the tennis court resurfaces. So maybe it's worth visiting a couple parks that have had like a major renovation. And then you can see some of the parks that are on your CIP list that are going to get done. So maybe that's a nice balance there. But Commissioner Gill has her hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering about Ben Rogers Park. I live right next to it. It was renovated literally middle of last year during the pandemic. But they did their kids section, whereas our slides and swings and all that. But on the slides that were shown today, it was poor quality. But from what I can see, I'm not sure if they're finished or anything, but it looks great the way it is. I'm not sure if that would be considered renovation or if it's only the kids area.
So the Ben Rogers Park wasn't a full renovation. That was a safety renovation with the playground equipment that had aged out. So they replaced that section. But that's another one.
That is a good one, yeah.
Yeah. And along those lines, Foothill Park had a brand new playground put in. Cardozo Park had a little bit of work done. So there's been some safety work and things done over the last 2 years, but people have been shuttered, for lack of a better term. But if you want to look at, maybe we could see a progression, what a full renovation park looks like, what a touch or a safety improvement park looks like, and then a park that needs to be touched looks like. Maybe that's a nice,
that'd be a good transition,
progression.
Good.
That would be, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So then do you all trust staff to put locations together for you, or would you like to pick those?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Absolutely.
I much prefer that staff does it.
Well, look at the excitement there. Okay, so we will put that together and then we'll visit some spots. So that meeting here's your next decision. You put your faith in us, and Josh and Justin and I are thrilled. So we'll pick those
And
locations
this
for
is what
you.
City Hall looks like.
Yeah. So you can do your tour one of two ways. You can do it on the night of your actual meeting and start a little early if that works for the commission. And then we can meet at one location, drive and drive. The other opportunity you can take is to cancel your regularly scheduled meeting in June, which we could do next month. And then you would schedule a special meeting on a Saturday morning to go out. So it depends on the commission, which one they choose. A lot of people would like to save their weekends and just start the meeting earlier on your Monday nights. So that's of discussion. So we can start as early as you want or as early as you guys can get to the first park location.
Can we do what we did last time and have you as our driver in a van?
Did I do that? I don't even remember.
Yeah,
that's
you drove
funny.
us around that time in the transit
that's
district.
right. Oh my gosh, 2019 just dropped out of my brain. Well, I don't know that with COVID that we'd want to all pile in a van, and I cannot take all of you.
Okay.
I don't have the right endorsements on my license for that. So might be safer to drive to each location. But
I suggest we meet earlier on a Monday.
okay, great.
I'm up for either way.
Yeah. I'm up either way.
I like the meeting earlier on the Monday idea.
On a
as
Monday?
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what is the earliest you guys can meet on a Monday?
I would say
No
5.
pressure.
5 for me.
Oh, are we doing three parks?
5 for me as well.
5 for me works.
Yeah, 3 parks, Joe.
8 a.m.
All right.
That would be Saturday.
Just spend the whole day together.
Yeah.
Sounds like
fun. 5 sounds late to do 3 parks, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm thinking about it because there's the transit between parks, right? That's a fair amount of time.
Ugh, you can get anywhere in Milpitas in 10 minutes.
Come on, Milpitas is a 2x2
really?
town.
Well,
At 5 o'clock?
Oh, that's true. We just got to take Renee's back streets.
5 than 3.
Mhm.
The school traffic. No.
Renee is not out at 5 o'clock on the streets.
That's what you think, but I do have to pick up a high schooler at the high school, so I am out and about.
I stand correction.
I'll do a Milpitas back streets map for you. You can get anywhere in 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
5 o'clock. Is there anyone that can't make a 5 o'clock?
No, it's fine with me.
So that'll be for the next meeting.
That'll be
right?
June. That would be a June meeting. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I hear
June.
no opposition. Silence is acceptance. So does 5 o'clock work for the majority on a Monday? Okay. All right. Okay. I see thumbs up. Okay.
Yes, that works.
All right. Okay. So 5 o'clock on your regular scheduled meeting, we will handle on the agenda next month, canceling or making it a special meeting. Okay. I think we have what we need.
Okay. So that moves up to city liaison reports. Do we have any staff reports?
So just wanted to take a second and welcome our new commissioner, Commissioner Gill, to the group. Is there anything you'd like to say?
It's a pleasure just being involved with Milpitas. I've been living here for 25 years now. I'm originally from England. I moved over here when I was 21. I have 3 kids, and yeah, I love it in Milpitas. I think it's great. The kids love it. They're doing really great stuff here for them. Even for people my age, there's classes, there's places to go, and the parks are beautiful. I love going to the parks, having a picnic in the summer especially. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, great.
Thank
Welcome.
you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks.
So as the chair mentioned just a little bit ago, we are moving back to in-person meetings for starting in April.
Yay.
So your first meeting in April is, Joshua, help me out because my calendar's not working.
April
Sorry.
4th.
First Monday. Okay, perfect.
The fourth.
Yeah. So we will meet in the City Hall Committee Conference Room at 7 o'clock. And we will commence a regular meeting for the first time in 2 years. So that will be exciting.
So when is that?
The
Hopefully
first meeting
Batman.
in April, April 4th.
April, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So all commissions are going back to in person
So
the beginning of April. Yeah.
So no hybrid then, either or.
Not for commissions, no.
Okay.
Yeah. We are all in. So, so more things coming back in person. We have a slew of in-person special events coming up. We have family fall, what are we calling it? Family fun Friday night, game
family
night.
fun night.
Yeah, so that's coming up in March. You want to tell them a little bit about that, Josh?
We're going to be doing it at the Sports Center. It's really taking our new skate park as a theme. We're doing a very low-key skate competition that will do all ages, adults, youth, and teens. And we will then also have a climbing wall, video game truck. We're going to have a paper airplane contest. We're going to play a movie out on the field, and as well as have some backyard kind of tailgate games and a food truck out there to kind of bring your family out, have a fun time at the Sports Center.
You want to remind them of the date real fast? Friday, March.
It is March 25th.
There you go.
And what time?
6 o'clock.
Thank you.
Many of you came to family game night when we had it in the plaza, the Civic Plaza, and it was packed. So we're moving it up to the Sports Center, incorporating the new skate park. So, so that'll be a fun one. And then summer concerts will start back up. Movies in the park will come back.
Brunch with the bunny.
Brunch with the bunny, which is taking a new life this year.
Oh, yeah, it's not brunch with the bunny. It's the Big Bunny Scramble.
That's right.
Big Bunny Scramble. Sorry, I forgot the name.
Love coming up with fun names. Big Bunny Scramble. So we're bringing back, Easter egg hunts that are calm and no parent competition. So that'll come back. And then 4th of July is coming back this year. So
Are we going to have
will do
fireworks?
that. Fireworks are planned. So yes, ma'am.
Yay.
So you will see Josh and I every day for the next 6 months at all the social events. So anyway, so it's nice to be able to bring that back to the community. So please, as stewards of Parks and Recreation in the city of Milpitas, keep an eye on the city's website, keep an eye on the city's social media pages. And when you see a post for an event or an opportunity or a social service that's out there, please share that. There is a lot of power in word of mouth or word of click, and you all can be very helpful in getting the word out to people with those things. So,
Quick question about that, Renee.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to social media and so and stuff the city putting out, did that at all fall into the Brown Act?
No, because you're sharing it on your personal page, and you're not sharing it as a commissioner.
Okay.
And you're not having discussions with people, right?
Cool. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. If you guys selected what we did, then we might be in a different discussion, but you don't. So you're good to go. So yeah, so lots of stuff happening, coming back. And if you hadn't checked it out, I know Vice Mayor went last weekend. Our first community theater in-person production kicked off last week. And I think we are completely sold out. They're doing Disney's The Descendants. So Our vice mayor was right there in the front row, I think opening
I
night,
took
right?
my granddaughter. Yeah, I took my granddaughter there.
Ah.
She loved it.
Yeah, so
was
that's
nice.
back in person, and so a lot of excitement from the community coming back safely.
Yeah.
So yeah, good
Yeah,
stuff.
those kids are talented. Those kids
I
are talented.
know. Yeah, a lot of talent in that room. So
Right.
so that's it for me, Chair.
Okay, city, Vice Mayor, do you have anything you want to share with us?
So Renee, if you can remind me, it did go through, we voted on the city council voted on having 10 commissioners. Right now there are, what, 9? What?
Yeah,
So-
9
so that-
commissioners.
Oh, so now, and the reason why, well, what before it was what, 7?
Yeah, 7 plus 2 alternates, and the council approved to going 9 commissioners with 2 alternates.
Right, and the reason being is because this commission is in charge of the bikes, the history, the parks, what else? Renee? It's like,
Everything, yeah.
and
Cultural
you know,
resources, yeah. They
yeah.
got a lot of
you
stuff
got-
on their
This
plate.
commission is the one that has the most task to do, so that's why I had asked if it could be increased, so that way you can spread the wealth, spread the task. I think it would be a lot easier for you guys, so I was really glad that passed. Then last week we went over the there's this it's kind of hard to describe. It's an organization called CSCDE. It's for California State Communities Development. It's an agency that helps communities buy up property using municipal bonds to promote affordable housing. And that was a 3-2 vote, and it passed. But I abstained because I feel that I didn't get enough information. I feel that it's a good concept, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions. But anyhow, that's what was passed. But if it ever comes again, I'm going to push to have it put to public vote, because to me it's so important that it should go to the public. It should go to the voters to vote on it, not us. Just to let you know. And that's it for now. Those are my reports.
Awesome. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
And then next item is upcoming agenda items. I see we have the garden update coming.
Yeah.
I had one question that I vaguely remember before pandemic being mentioned, and I wanted to know if there was updates. I don't know if it can be a future, but I remember hearing something that we got the okay to have a nonprofit on for the Parks and Rec a long time ago. It's something like that. That was
Yes. So we used to have the Milpitas Parks and Recreation Foundation. It was a effort, oh my goodness, in the mid 2000s. And so that nonprofit folded due to actions of that board. And so a new foundation was recently formed and just got their designation letter to operate as a nonprofit. So we can, although it doesn't have anything to do with this commission, they're 2 separate bodies.
yes.
But we can send out some information in the future.
Yeah, I just would love to know more about it.
Yeah, probably not for an agenda item, because it's a separate nonprofit, but we can share information on it if you'd like at a later date. Yep.
Cool. Then that's the meeting's adjourned, and look forward to seeing everyone in person next month.
Yes.
Hey, great.
See you 3-dimensionally in a month.
Yes.
Yay.
Bye.
All right.
Good
Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.